All right, all right, all right. So I am late. I was informed by my wife in a text, you're late, but I was trying to get my audio squared away.
All right. So I am late. I was informed by my
Are we
wife.
getting an echo?
We sure are.
Audio squared
Oh
away.
no, we gotta fix that. I don't know what's going on here.
We sure are.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know what's up that. I apologize to everybody. That's terrible. Hey, you hear me now? Are we getting an echo still?
Apologize to everybody. That's terrible. Hey, you hear me now? Are we getting an echo?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hello?
Hear me now?
Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm
Somebody,
echoing
something's
too.
messed up. That's bad, bad.
Yeah.
Go check my audio here.
1, 2, 3. I'm echoing too.
That's bad, bad.
Yeah.
Check my audio here.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
I have never done this. I just muted you, Steve. Is everybody still getting the echo? Now that I just muted Steve, trying to figure out if it's him or me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I no longer hear the echo and all that.
I can barely hear you.
Well, is that better? I moved the mic
That's
away for
better.
a second. Okay, so you got me. Everybody else got me.
I'm still.
I don't have YouTube open, so that ain't it for me.
Oh shit! You know what? I wonder if it's me because I'm doing a live.
Yeah.
Okay, try it now.
All right. Did that fix it? Was it Steve? Did Steve
Might have been my dumb ass.
Steve had his YouTube open. So,
I was watching us on YouTube.
can you guys hear me now?
Hopefully that was it.
Hello, hello, hello. All right. There we go. There we go. Jay says, okay. So
Are we
hopefully
kicking
we're
ass?
fixed. If we're not fixed, you let me know. We're gonna get into this, but it looks to me like the audio is working okay now. So.
All right.
No more echo, they say.
Note to self: don't ever watch ourselves live.
Jay says I'm low. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me any better now? Hello, hello.
You're not normal. I know that.
Well, shit. Well,
bitch.
I'll just you quit yelling in my ear. I'm gonna. my headphones are all the way up. My mic is apparently all the way down. God damn it.
I feel like firecracker right now because you hear me yelling.
Yeah, I can't turn my audio down.
I'm explosive.
Every time I turn it down, it jumps back to 100. So let's see here.
I know, Jay. I politically correct. Can't say what I am right now.
How's the mic volume now?
Let's just say I ride the short bus.
Hey, is the mic volume better now? Can you hear me now?
It's not like it should be on my end.
Well, hopefully it's better. Ray's Road says better. We're going to get this moving on. I'll have to check the settings. I don't know why they changed, but I'll speak up and hopefully y'all can get this. No, Mike, not better. Damn it.
I can hear you. It's just
hello, hello, hello. Hang on here. I'm going to kill some shit.
Let me ask the audience here. Can you hear me okay, guys? Or am I off too?
Test 1, 2, 3. Is that any better? We can both hear you, Dying Breed says. I'm going to get on with this. We ain't going to keep everybody waiting all day. So, first thing I want to talk about is the Pan America. So, a lot of people were hating on this and thought it was a terrible idea to make a dressed up Pan America because they don't sell or whatever else. But, here's the deal. I mean, this thing's just a Pan America with the fancy paint job. They're going to give you the side cases that are got CVO on them, quick shifters, laced wheels, auxiliary lighting, and a skid plate, and you get all that for $8,000 extra. Now, I don't know what all that shit would cost. I'm not into that. So they say it's a good value. I'm sure they've done the math and they think they're giving you basically a bundle with all these accessories for the people that would want to go out and pay to have this put on. So you're not paying for the labor to have the dealership install the quick shifter or things like that or mount the bags for you. It all comes in. Ray says that Steve is hot, that you're loud, Steve. I don't know. Maybe he's just talking about you're hot. I don't know. It says your
Well,
levels are hot, but maybe he just means you're hot. No inverted front forks on the Road Glide standard, same old ones as before. Yes, sir, that is correct, Greg. We're going to talk about that as well. So really, that's the deal on the Pan America. There's not a whole lot to say there. Yeah, it had heated grips, had special stuff, but like I say, you know, and somebody said these are made to go off road. Well, these are adventure touring motorcycles. This Pan America is meant to be ridden down the road to get somewhere and go off road. I mean, these are not dirt bikes, so let's not.
yeah.
Only extreme riders per se are going to be doing a lot of off road riding on these. I mean, you may take them down a gravel road, but I take my street glide down a gravel road. I've done that before. I've taken it through mud on the way to Sturgis when it poured down rain and the dirt road turned to mud. So I'm not getting excited about it. I mean, if it's CVO, I'm not a Pan America buyer right now, but if people want to spend the money on it and stuff, then great. With all the accessories, Paul says it is not a bad value. So there you have it from a buyer and an enthusiast who might know what these accessories really cost. I do think it looked good. One thing that kind of, the pictures to me look like these things are red, but they're calling it legendary orange. So I want to see it in person. I want to see if there's more of it. The video when they were showing the paint looked more orange than the pictures that I'm seeing. So I want to really see how that looks in person. I do want to see it and judge it then, which I am sure I'll get to see some of this in a week. For those of you that are just tuning in that haven't seen the last night's live or last weekend's video, I will be going to the Harley Davidson press event. I feel very flattered to get invited to come out and ride the new models. I know I'll be riding 3 touring models, and one of those will be the CVO Road Glide ST. So I expect that to be awesome, and I don't think I can probably ride it quite as well as the guys in these videos, but we're going to try and have some fun on it. I know it's going to be an exciting deal, so watch for a video on that. But I'm also going to ride 2 other touring motorcycles, which I assume are going to be the standard the standard Street Glide and the standard Road Glide. I mean, it might be CVOs, but I don't think so. I think they'll put us on the standard Street Glide and the standard Road Glide to get us some experience with that as well, to talk about those, because that's what the bulk of buyers are going to buy, not CVOs. Now, there was a lot of talk about the new Street Glide and Road Glide having variable valve timing. So let's get that right out of the way. No, it does not. So the new 117 has a cone, just like the other CVOs came out that had the variable valve timing, but they are not variable valve timing. But they do get the new water cooling system, Steve. So they'll run a little cooler. What do you think about that?
I don't know much about it. I've heard one guy say that he doesn't think the system doesn't work that well. So I can't wait to hear more about it.
Well, and Dropkick South, he says there is no standard. Actually, there is no special. Yeah, they just dropped the name. It's one model: Street Glide and Road Glide, or CVOs. There is no standard. There is no special. We just got it. There's no ST except for the CVO Road Glide ST. So it's I think going to make things simpler. But when we're talking about older models and comparing them, it makes it a little harder to compare to. But it's a new change, and I kind of like the way they're doing that, making it simpler for them. Now, I don't know about the water cooling, if it makes a lot of difference. I rode the new CVOs in Sturgis. It was not terribly hot. But I didn't have any problems with it or anything else. So we'll see how that goes. But now here's some of the interesting stuff on the new Street Glide and Road Glide. So new styling, which we've been saying they were going to get the new styling in the dash. That's not a big surprise there. They're going to get rain modes: road, sport, rain, and a custom road. The new dash includes a new 200 amp amplifier for the audio system in the dash. Now, I don't know what size speakers come in the standard Street Glide and Road Glide, but I know the new CVO Road Glide ST has a 500 watt amp and 6.5 inch speakers. So that tells me the dash will take 6.5 inch speakers. So even if it doesn't come with them, you could pop them out, put some better speakers in there, and get some better audio out of it. Now, they say this new dash, they said this when they launched the Street Glide and Road Glide, so it's not a huge thing, but it's supposed to reduce buffeting on the helmet by 60%. It's got a 3-inch rear shock, which is what your limiteds and your other touring models had that were not like the specials that were slammed. So that's what the CVO Road Glide and Street Glide had last year, were a 3-inch shock. That's going to help with rear suspension and travel. They're not getting the premium suspension. They're not getting the inverted front forks or the adjustable show at rear suspension, but we'll have to see. I mean, that's kind of the disappointment, probably maybe for me. George Kalina says the Whiskey Fire looks like Red Rock. It actually looks better than the Red Rock paint. I mean, it's more of a bright red from what I've seen. I just got to see the Whiskey Fire a couple weeks ago in a video, and I think it's an improvement over the Red Rock, but I guess we'll see. A lot of positive comments here. We did not get a Bronx again this year, but anyway, I mean, we can always hold out hope. I don't know. It's got a new seat on the Street Glides and Road Glides. It's supposed to be more comfortable for longer riding from the factory. That's always a plus. Everybody always throws the seats away pretty much, so let's hope it's an improvement. Now, this new 117, to compare it to the 117 in the ST models last year, Steve, we're going to bump from 102 horsepower to 105 horsepower and from 125 torque to 130 torque. So, if we haven't talked about it yet, we're going to get to the price, but think about that. These improvements, all LED lightings, all the way around the bike, and all the rider safety enhancement shit is included in the price. And that used to be a $2,000 option: traction control, hill assist to start, all that stuff. And we get all this for $26,000 MSRP plus freight plus whatever color upgrades. So, you look at the old prices for 2023, the base Street Glide with the 107 was $22,000. The Street Glide Special was $28,000 last year plus surcharges. So came in over $29,000 probably. And now we're at $26,000. And freight's always been there. I've just never tracked it, So I think the pricing is right. I mean, we got bigger motor, more power, all LED lighting, less cost, better dash, ride modes, rider safety enhancement. I mean, I think Harley, for me, I mean, they nailed it on the pricing. I mean, this is, it's a reduction in price for the Street Glide Special with more features. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they want to sell some motorcycles to me. You're getting more for less, more bike for less money, unless you wanted the basic, the standard in the past. So sounds like a win to me. I did notice that the Road Glide and Street Glides do not have the stretched bags.
Yeah.
I'm a stretch bag guy, so I was kind of disappointed to.
See, I'm not. I wouldn't buy one with stretch bags. I like to lay my shit over and scrape it in the corner, and I don't like stretch bags. Now, I'm gonna comment on this. I don't want to get into it too heavy, but I hear this shit all the time about their top heavy, and they're forgetting about the blue collar worker. Let's be honest. They care about consumers who can afford their motorcycles. They don't give a shit if you're blue collar, white collar. I hear how they forgot about the blue collar worker, but I've been riding Harleys for 25 plus years, and they were never affordable unless your blue collar worker was a union wage. If you were out working a blue collar job in a factory for $4 more than minimum wage, they weren't any more affordable 25 years ago than they are now. So they haven't forgotten anything. Just people have gotten this marketing thing that it was for the common man, but it was always expensive for the common guy. That's not changed. That's the way it's been. They're not cheap. I'm not saying they're cheap, and I could wish they were cheaper all day long, but I think this was definitely a step in the right direction with a reduction in price from the special with more features. So Swiss Mountain Cowboy says that the CVO ST gave him a chubby, and I'm not really a bagger bro, but I keep telling myself that anyway. We're gonna get into that bike next, but I want to know what do y'all, what's everybody in the chat? What do you think about the price change and the new features for the Street Glide and Road Glide? Is that a win for Harley Davidson? Is that I mean, everybody complains about the price. We all do. Everybody's paying too much for everything. I get that, but the fact is, it looks to me like they brought us more stuff for less money than what it was last year or the year before. So, I mean, I get some people like stretch bags. That was the thing they went to after 2016. Now they're going back the other way. So,
Well, here's another way to look at it. If you were, let's say we put the two bikes together and you've got a buyer and you say, here's a 23 Street Glide or Road Glide special, and or here's the 24 Street Glide Road Glide. Which one do you want to buy? I mean, that's a no-brainer because you're getting a lot more on that 24.
yeah, I mean, it's a couple $1,000s maybe more in price for the 2023. If you really want stretch bags, there's aftermarket spots that are going to be do it, but they're not going to till somebody comes out with them that matches the new body lines. You're probably not just going to slap old stretch bags on there. So, but I think those things will be coming. Advan Black and companies like that will be bringing us aftermarket parts already. I think they'll be getting there soon. Price sucks, but I like the change. Going to wait till they work the bugs out before I go all in. I think the pricing scheme is pretty much on the money. I miss the stretch bags as well. I just bought a 23 Road Glide ST and picked it up Saturday. I could have got the 24 Road Glide for the same price. And so James, I mean, as a buyer, would you looking at this as a guy that just bought the Road Glide ST? Now you could have got a 24 Road Glide, for the same price. What do you think? How do you feel? Would you, are you disappointed that you got the 23? Are you okay with it? I mean, do you think the 24 is a lot better value? Personally, I like to look in the features. That's great to hear. CVO ST is killer in black or white. I just saw the website, a Pan America CVO. Yes, sir. It sure is. Yeah, it looks like Harley stayed to the right. It stayed in the right lane, LOL said. Ray said. The new plastics are pretty thin. I didn't really notice them being thin. I mean, and I did stuff shit down in the side bags when I rode it at Sturgis. I thought the design was better for being able to put certain things in it. I mean, there's times my bags are a little narrow for my lunchbox or a few other things, and it seemed like the bags were more accommodating to me when I rode it at Sturgis for the things I would want to pack in it. Do you think the shape of the new bag stretch might look funny or weird? Absolutely. I mean, I think that we're going for the performance look. So, please tell me why the Road King Special, Road Glide Limited, and Ultra Limited still have the 114 engine. Street Glide and Road Glide standards have the new variable valve timing 117. They do not have variable valve timing, Paul. So these new Street Glides and Road Glides are not variable valve timing. They got new water control. They look like a variable valve timing cone. All of these new bikes that they showed today do, except for the Pan America. But these new 117s and 121s all look like they have variable valve timing, but they do not. In fact, the Road Glide ST does not have variable valve timing. Only the standard CVO Street Glide and Road Glide still have VVT. The new Street Glide, new Road Glide do not get VVT, and the new Road Glide ST CVO model does not get VVT. So, Jeff said, "Why would you ever put garbage on a Harley like Advan Black?" Well, I've not had any issues with Advan Black. I've only bought a few products from them, but I don't have like stretch bags or anything else. But the fact is that a lot of people buy their stretched bags, and I bought tour packs from other companies that were not Harley Davidson aftermarket stuff for a lot less money, and they worked for me so far just fine. I haven't had any problems with them. I'm not going to go with Vivid Black. I'm not going to go out and buy a chopped razor pack for $1,000 when I can get one for $200, $250 with the mounts, and it looks the same to me. Or close enough that nobody's going to notice except for the super detail oriented person. So Jay said that he's loving the new body work. It's growing on him. Um, you know, his new bad LSX says the dealer's already texting for the new lineup. No prices yet. I'm sure that will be at their discretion. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm an MSRP guy. So if somebody's going to sell me a bike, they're going to have to get me at MSRP. And the new Street Glide and Road Glide is actually MSRP is 26,000. It's 25,999, and then you got $850 freight. That freight thing is not something I count because I've seen dealers take that off. Some are going to force it, some are going to not, but I only track MSRP because everything else is negotiable with the dealer, including MSRP. But I mean, I've seen dealers who charge freight. I've seen dealers who will, oh yeah, we could take that off to make the sale. So I don't really get into too much besides MSRP first, comparing bikes. Now, Steve, I mean, do you see a new Road Glide in your future?
No.
No. Do you see new Road Glide ST in your future?
No, because no, I mean, I've built my bikes faster than that. So, and I like the stretched out look. And I mean, is it a badass bike? And would I love to have one? Absolutely. I think they're killer. But I've done so much work to my bike that it's really my dream bike. So
Jeff talking about the Advan Black saying the quality is nowhere near Harley's. Well, it may not be, the quality may not be the same as Harley's, but you also get what you pay for. And if the $200 product gets me everything I need, and it doesn't wear out in 2 years or anything else, that where it's a waste of money, then I'm okay with that. I'm also about value. I mean, I can't afford a Porsche. I can't afford a CVO unless I'm, going to eat peanut butter and jelly for lunch for the next 5 years, but that's something I'm considering. I mean, if you think about how bad you want something, what do you spend for a Starbucks coffee, or what do you spend for lunch? And can you just take that out of your budget and drink water and have peanut butter and jelly? And how much does that save you a day? $5 a day, every day, $25, that's $200 a week, or $200 a month. Well, $200 a month might be the difference between a CVO payment and a standard payment, So just something you got to decide how bad you want it, what you're willing to sacrifice for it.
I also noticed that there's a difference between the brake caliper or the rotors on the CVOs and the regular bikes. Regular bikes seem to still have the same old rotors and calipers, and then the ST seem to have more of a race element look to them.
So let me see if here, look around my camera so I can get to my page here. It's not wanting to let me bring it up. So some of them have floating rotors, and I think that's what you're seeing is the floating rotors. Probably the standards are fixed, or they're semi-floating, what they would call. That's probably the difference. Of course, you're getting what you're paying for with the CVO. That's a performance thing.
Yep.
Floating rotors are supposed to work better. Now, they have radially mounted calipers on the new CVOs. Yes, on the CVO Road Glide ST and the standards CVO SG Street Glide and Road Glide. So now let's talk about the new CVO Road Glide ST, because I think this is really, kind of the next interesting thing that they released. We no longer have the standard Road Glide ST or Street Glide ST at all. And we didn't get a Street Glide ST this year, like in the CVO model here, to compare with the Road Glide. Now, me and Steve already talked about that. I'm going to be honest. I suspect this has got to do with the recall on the CVO Street Glide that from what I understand, that recall involves adding a weight, and it involves limiting the speed to 101 mile an hour. So I'd say there is a concern about handling. Until they get that under control, they're probably not going to come out with a Street Glide ST in the CVO like they did the Road Glide. Now, this Road Glide ST is a 25th CVO anniversary paint with two options, a pearl white and a raven metallic. And the raven metallic looked a lot different to me in some shots than others. So again, I'm going to hold judgment till I get to see these things in person. 14.4 said 90-mile-an-hour limit recall. Yeah, 99, 100, 101. I've heard different things, and whatever. It's still right there at 100 mile an hour is your limit. Where the Road Glide, if you guys didn't know, the new bikes have been getting limited to like 115 mile an hour from Harley. Of course, you can fix that with the tune. Somebody can remap the ECE, electronic control unit, but I wonder if this Road Glide ST has a limit on it. It's got a higher rev limit. It's got some other things. So this bike is 43,000. It's got a 121 high output motor with no variable valve timing, and it reaches 127 horsepower and 145 on torque. Now that's those numbers are just a hair higher than the regular 121, like 2 to 5 there. So it's not a lot, but it does that without the variable valve timing, and I was told that it was done for maximum performance. So the other thing to note on this Road Glide ST, they're not going to tell you in the video, I've been pouring through the specs for you guys for the last half hour, is it has a lower final drive to have better acceleration. But that also means it's going to have potentially less top end. Now, if it's limited electronically to 120 mile an hour, then it doesn't maybe really matter, and you just get there faster. Now, the weight is reduced over the 2023 Road Glide ST. So the new CVO Road Glide ST is down 4 pounds, 800 pounds dry shipped before you put fluid in it. Fully adjustable front and rear Showas, including that inverted front fork. You're going to get those premium Brembo radially mounted brakes that we've been talking about. Roads. Now, I thought this was interesting. The modes, you got a road, a sport, a track, and a track plus, and then a rain, and then you got multiple customs. And they talked about in the video that the track was specifically like tailored based on Kyle Wyman's preferences from the King of the Baggers racing. So I thought that was pretty cool. So when they talking track, they're talking setting it up the way they did. So Ray wants to know if you can put a Clockworks bigger windshield on these. We'll have to talk to Brian Clock about that. I have not seen that launched yet. They did have a video the other day about fenders for them, though, for the new CVOs and stuff with the inverted front forks. So they've already working on new fenders for those. I'm sure a windshield thing will be coming. I was told by somebody else in the aftermarket industry that I'm working with that there was supposed to be something in the announcement they thought related to the company that they're with, and I didn't see anything related to that. So I'm looking here. Looks like they just announced the bike so far, but we're live on the website. New Harley Davidson Pack Talk Edge Dual Pack. So it looks like Harley Davidson has Harley Davidson branded Cardos. So that's cool. Is the true carbon fiber as well? Is that true carbon fiber? Well, from what I can tell, it is. It looks like there's, on this Road Glide ST, we're going to get some carbon fiber parts. I think that's part of how they got the 4 pounds. The other thing on the new dash for the Road Glide ST is a new 500-watt amp with Rockford Fosgate Stage 2 6.5-inch speakers. They did 6-inch risers and moto handlebars. So, that's that performance bagger, style and handlebar that people are always talking about and wanting. I can't wait to ride one. I will be riding one in a week, so that'll be cool to see what I think about it. It's got kind of a different, it's not got the standard engine guard, if you noticed. It's got kind of that bar that sticks straight out like the skid bars that stunt riders use and stuff. So that's also new, and of course all LED lighting on the Road Glide ST. So those are the big things I've really noticed. I think the Road Glide ST is very, very interesting. At 43,000, I don't know. That's still 17,000 more than the Street Glide. I mean, is there $17,000 in change there? I mean, what do you think, Steve? Where are you feeling that?
Well, I'm thinking about my own situation where I took a 17 Road Glide Standard and I pimped it out with 124 S&S motor and stretch bags and fancy this, fancy that. And I guarantee you, I'm way the fuck over $43,000. So I can tell you from personal experience, that's that's a deal.
Well,
Because if you try to do it yourself, you're going to be well over that.
and here's what you run into. Everybody needs to remember, you know, if you go out and spend $20,000 in aftermarket accessories to build a CVO, when you go to trade it off, the bank don't give no shits about your aftermarket stuff. It's not in the loan. They're not going to loan somebody the extra money for it. Now, if you buy a $40,000 CVO, when the bank goes to loan against it, they'll look at it as a $40,000 bike. Now, I'm sure there's always some exceptions where you can talk to your banker if you know them well and document all the accessories and all the things, and maybe they'll loan a little more for it based on that. But generally, if you try and sell that bike used, some guy goes to the bank and says, "Oh, I want to buy this 2017 Road Glide. It's got a bunch of accessories on it." They're going to look at the book value and say, "Okay, we'll give you 16,000. That's what we'll give you to buy it." And Steve's gonna say, "Fuck you, hit the road," because he's not selling it for that.
That's right. Yeah, that's why when I bought it, I thought, put all that in my mind. I thought, you know what? I'm only going to get pennies on the dollar if I ever try to sell this bike. So I need to make it just exactly the way I want it.
So they say my mic volume is still low. Everything's set the way it normally is, but I'm gonna try and run it up. We'll see if that's any better. Is that any better for you, Steve?
That's better. I've been struggling to hear you a little bit.
All right. Is that?
That's way better.
Yeah, the automatic volume that in StreamYard apparently is not working today for me, but something's not right. But anyway, we're back on track. I apologize. We didn't get a chance to test stuff before the show because I was making notes for everything after the launch. So looks like we got her fixed. Finally.
Hey, were you going to talk about the Pan American at all? I had one thing that kind of caught my eye.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, so I'm just like you. I don't. Pan America doesn't really fit in what I'm trying to do with riding a motorcycle. So I think they're cool, but just not my world. But what I did notice is they spent quite a bit of time on that Premier, pimping that bike, putting it in, the mountains and, along the stream or a lake or whatever it was. And it dawned on me, they're really trying to sell that bike. So it just caught my attention.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a market Harley's trying to move into. I hear mixed things from people about Pan Americas. Of course, it's like anything else, and I have quality surveys at work. Everybody will get on. They'll fill out a survey to bitch when they don't get their way or get what they want, and they'll say how bad things are. But when things are right, they don't talk about it. And it's sometimes on YouTube, it's the same way. Oh, I've got all these problems with my Pan America, or I've got this M8 sump in oil, or whatever. And those are all the videos you see, and you get this overwhelming representation that it has all these problems. But when things are running right, nobody makes a video that says, "Hey, guess what? Everything's working like it's supposed to," because that's not interesting. There's no drama. Now I'm not saying people shouldn't talk about the things that are not working right, but you just got to remember, because you hear those things doesn't mean that they're as prominent as they may be on YouTube in the real world. I mean, I know some people who own a Pan America who rode a lot of miles on it. They're not telling me they have problems. I've seen people in the comments say they have one and they love it. I think Malin asked about the CVO and who that's targeted at. It seems like an odd choice. We had a person in the chat. I don't know if he's still in here, but he's a Pan Am rider. I think Jacob here. He's on mine, and I only issue was a fuel pump that went bad at 10,000 miles. So, Swiss Mountain Cowboy. Let's see. My Pan America was replaced under warranty, and it's the second one. And the second one had many problems too. Still the best motorcycle I've ever ridden. So, I mean, there may be some bugs they're still working out on. I'm not saying they're not. But a lot of people that love them. I mean, I've got a video where I got to ride one for about 4 or 5 hours, unsupervised, do whatever I want, and It's a bike you can take down the gravel road, across the field, and you can also go jump on the blacktop and you can carve traffic at 110 mile an hour. Like, and I'm not a sport bike rider, but it's what I imagine it would feel like, and that's firsthand experience. So I didn't have any problems with it. I'm not tall. At 5'8", I could still ride it. Of course, I was riding the special, and that has the adaptive ride height suspension. And I've got some experience riding dirt bikes when I was young, and I had a DR 650. So, but I think there's a market for it. I think BMW GS 1200, 1250s or whatever, and the 1300 that they just came out with, are the market they're shooting for. And if you look at dealership wise, there's a lot more Harley dealers than there are BMW dealers. I mean, Steve, you probably got one in Kansas City there, and there's one in St. Louis, and there's probably not another one in between. Now,
Yep.
how many Harley dealers are there in between Kansas City and St. Louis? How many Harley dealers are there in Kansas City and in St. Louis?
Yeah, there's 3 in the city, and then there's 2 or 3 more that are within shouting distance,
Right. St. Louis has got Gateway and Docks, Big St. Charles. They have at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head right there in St. Louis.
Yep.
We got Lake of the Ozarks and Blacktop in Columbia and Renegade in Springfield. So there's a lot more prevalence in the dealerships, which means getting parts, getting accessories, getting work done, things like that, are maybe more accessible to some people. I don't want to have to go all the way to St. Louis to get parts or to pick up spark plugs, or not that I buy them from the dealer anyway on spark plugs, but just whatever it is. I don't want to have to go to St. Louis to get it. And with BMW, I'd have no options otherwise but go to the city.
Yep.
Paul said, name another Harley that can pull wheelies in third gear. I don't know about third gear, but I know a V-Rod will pull one in second gear, personally. So, but again, the Revolution Max engine is a derivative inspired by the V-Rod. So, same kind of performance.
Do you have the horsepower and torque on that CVO ST? Did you say 140 something?
145 on the torque.
Torque 145 on the. Now that's just a little bit better than my bike, which is a 124 S&S. I'm 143 on torque, and I'm 130, 125 on horsepower.
Well, they got you by just a couple. They're 127 on
pretty
horse
impressive.
and 145 on torque. Yep. I
was impressed with those numbers. That's getting down the road, I can tell you that.
So, I got to make a decision. Well, I don't have to make it right now. I got to ride some bikes, but I'm going to have to make a decision this year. Do I hold out for the inverted front forks and the Brembo brakes, or do I buy maybe one now, knowing that it's not my, none of these are my forever bikes, really. I mean, if my forever bikes are older bikes, my 94 Lowrider, 88 Springer, those are the forever bikes that aren't getting sold, and they're older and they're depreciated. I can afford to hang on to them. But my touring bikes, right now there's not a forever bike in my stable for touring. Those are bikes I intend to put a lot of miles on and then trade in. So, do I buy a new Street Glide at $26,000 with the 117 in it and the water cooling, and ride that with the new styling and the dash for a few years and put 20 or 30,000 miles on it? And if they eventually, those inverted front forks roll down in 3-4 years, then I do that, trade in again.
That was the number one question I was going to ask on this live was, did you see enough to want to pull the trigger?
I'm awful tempted. I'm going to wait till I ride them to see. I'm going to withhold judgment till then. But the deal is, I want them Brembos and that, but I don't want to pay the CVO price. I don't want to pay the extra $17,000. So I'm going to have to make a sacrifice. And I mean, my bike right now handles pretty well with aftermarket progressive suspension. So get the CVO ST power. I know it's got power. You know, the Milwaukee 8117 is kind of a refined motor now. I mean, they've had it out for several years. Yeah, there's some new water cooling in this, but I mean, they're not. It's not a drastic change. The VVT is kind of a new thing in this B Twin platform. They've been doing it in the Revolution Max platform, but not in the Milwaukee 8 platform until last year. I mean, the other side of the coin is if I buy the ST with the 117, I mean, it didn't have bad numbers. They were 100 and let's see, 105 horse and 130 torque still. That's a lot of torque. You know, that's those numbers are significant jump from my 103, even with my stage 1 that's dyno tuned. So I'm going to feel an increase in performance. I'm going to get all LED lighting. I'm going to get rider modes. I'm going to get the new dash. I'm going to get 3-inch shocks in the rear. You know,
May not have to replace your seat.
you know better than that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll probably be calling Saddleman. What you got? What you got? Come on, buddy. What you got?
Let's see it.
Ray says, I play the lottery every week. If I win, I'll buy you a CVO.
Ah,
Ray, that's very generous.
that is.
But you got to pay the taxes on it, too. No, I'll pay the taxes. You just buy the bike. Just write down that you gifted it to me for $100 on the title. So what do you think, Steve? We didn't get one thing. What happens? We didn't get anything that was a real shock or surprise.
We didn't. We didn't get an Icon bike. We didn't get, anything new on the Road King. Kind of thought maybe we'd see something there. No new Softails.
So I haven't got a chance to compare this to all the Softails, but my assumption is the Lowrider S with the 117 is the same Lowrider S 117 it had last year. This 117 in the touring models is not the same because it's going to have water cooling in the heads. I haven't looked at compression and all the other things. I just haven't had time yet. I'm going to try and get into some of that and maybe record a video tomorrow, try and have it out by the weekend. It'll have more details. But they didn't, they don't really say those kinds of things in the press release. So I got to go dig through specs and compare to see what the differences are. Yeah, we didn't get a new Revolution Max bike at all. We got, no new models there. Same 3 sport models. I don't know. I mean, we didn't get any new Softails. They didn't even talk about the Softails in the launch. So I don't think anything for the sport line or the Softails have changed. This launch was all about the touring models. For all I've heard for years is they need a new monoshock rear end, they need a new frame, and then they bring out a 121 with 145 foot-pounds of torque, and everybody's forgot all about that. They're all like, yay, yay, yay. And that's, I don't know that I felt they need a monoshock rear end. I rode the Indian, I didn't, the Indian Challenger, and it didn't make me go, woohoo. So...
it looked like the front fairing, the windshield on the fairing is different, and it looked like maybe it would be adjustable, but I never saw anything or heard anything about it being adjustable.
No, there's no indication of any of that in the press release. I don't think it's going to be adjustable. That was something that early on people were anticipating, and it didn't happen. Firecracker says, I'm going to win in Vegas next week, but baby, let me know how much you got to win before I get my Road Glide ST. And 14.4 says he disagrees. He thinks the rear suspension is archaic as compared to the Softails. Well, that may be. It may be archaic, but, I rode them both, and I didn't feel like, for me that one was significantly better than the other, not drastically. So, that's, again, maybe takes 1,000 miles to find, and some big potholes, but Now, I do think that electronic shock adjustment, like Indian has, but not all Indians have that. Just the Pursuit, and it's backwards compatible with some of the Challengers. But the adjustable electronic height for the shock, for preload, for weight, for passenger changes would be nice. That's a Fox shock thing, and I don't think anybody else has got it yet. Will they launch any new mid-year stuff? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, I'm sure the Icon model's coming sometime. The first Icon model they did launched in like March, February, late February, early March. After they went to these January releases, so we might hear something in a few months, or we may not hear anything for till May for the Icon model or something like that. It's not been consistent about when they'll announce that in the past.
I still think that if you're going to have an annual celebration in Milwaukee, you got to bring something to the table, and bringing a new bike, something, an Icon or whatever, something needs to be presented there each year, in my opinion.
So yeah, Raise the Road said he had a 2020 Challenger and it was 1,000% better than the previous HD Tours, and I guess it depends on what you're comparing to. Factory shocks, yes, but if you put a good set of rear shocks on the back, I've got $800 rear shocks on mine from Progressive. You put a set of Olin's on there, is it better than those? I mean, what we get into is this argument about mono shock versus two twin shocks. Is one better than the other? Well, I don't think that simply having a mono shock, means that your suspension is going to be better than mine if I drop $2,000 on my suspension. Now, maybe if you drop $2,000 on your mono shock, it'll be even better than two. Maybe you don't need to drop $2,000 on it if you have the mono shock. But again, that goes back into, if you asked me if I wanted a Challenger or a Road Glide ST, knowing that I was going to have to drop $2,000 in putting Nolan's on the back to get the same, suspension, I would take the Road Glide every day. I rode the Challenger. I haven't rode it since last year, since they supposedly fixed the throttle mapping and stuff and the clutch, but, it was not a bike that, made me want to turn around and look at it when I got off of it and walked away. Well, 14.4 says, I don't believe in buying a $30,000 motorcycle and needing another $2,000 for shocks. Well, I get it, but if Harley put those $2,000 shocks on there, they'd charge $4,000 because they're going to have markup on them. Because somebody else is still making them, selling them to them, and they become the middleman, and then they put it on the bike and sell it to you. Where, if you can buy it from the manufacturer like Progressive or something else, you won't have maybe the Harley markup as well. I don't like the idea of buying a $30,000 bike and needing to put a lot of stuff on it, but that we've been doing it for years. Everybody's buying $25,000 baggers and putting bars on them and putting taller windshields on them, putting stereos on them, putting exhaust on them, putting seats on them, putting shocks on them. So the reality is, should you have to? Maybe not. But the reality is we are.
Yeah.
So, trying to be a realist from my own perspective, if I go out and when I bought my Street Glide, I didn't go out and put shocks on it right away. I waited 50,000 miles before I did it. Yes,
I think that's always, the big shock is anytime you talk to somebody that's just getting into the Harley Davidson world, they buy the bike and they think they're done. And then they come up to you and you're like, my ass is killing me. Well, because your seat sucks.
Yeah. Well, suspension also both. I mean, if you're running a special with the 12-inch shock, that's going to matter too. So yes, 6, we talked about that. The base model is not VVT. The Road Glide ST is not VVT also, for those that just joined maybe late and hadn't seen us talk about that. Under specs, there's no mention of it, but on the CVO there is. But it is not on the CVO Road Glide ST. There is no VVT on that. I have already confirmed that with Harley since the launch. And it is what is represented in all the documentation, but I just wanted to make sure it was right. So,
I got a small complaint about the CVO. I don't like the Fast Johnny emblem. Hopefully, that's a sticker that can just easily be pulled off.
Well, the good news is it's a side panel, so it's not going to be as
Yeah,
expensive to replace as a
yeah.
fairing or
I thought the
paint.
same thing. I'm like, well, that's a fairly inexpensive fix.
Yep. Well, and the Pan America Active suspension is perfect. It has a monoshock, and that's true. It does, and I thought it was really good. Um, I just don't know that simply saying that it needs a monoshock is enough. If you put a cheap monoshock on there, that's not going to necessarily be as good as twin coiled suspension that is good suspension in the back. And that's my point is yes, this technology may be better, but it still depends on the implementation of the technology for it to be good. So, yeah, RDRS is standard on the new models, like it is on the Rev Max bikes. It is standard on the Street Glide and Road Glide, and now, and it was I think already standard on the CVOs. So I didn't really check on the CVOs, but I'm sure it's still there, and I can't imagine it wouldn't be there now that when it's no longer called RDRS, it's called Rider Safety Enhancements (RSE). But the Rider Safety Enhancement features are all now standard on that Street Glide and Road Glide for that 26,000, and that was like a $2,000 upgrade just a few years ago. So is that a tact admission that Harley would put on a cheap mono? Well, I don't know why they wouldn't put on a cheap mono when they put on a cheap twin coil. So I mean, uh, I'm sure they would. But the other thing you got to remember with suspension, and people don't get into this too much or talk about it. Think about Harley puts a shock on there that's supposed to work for single or two up, and it's supposed to work for a wide range of weights, and it's not going to work well for that. When you buy a shock from Progressive, they're going to ask you if you're under 250 pounds, or you 250 pounds to 350 pounds, or you over 350 pounds, and they're going to give you three different choices for those three different classes of weight that you typically ride. And if you are jumping between those, again, you're going to lose performance even in a progressive shock because you're outside the weight range that spring is weighted for. So with Harley, you get a mediocre, I'll say, shock that has a wide range of performance. And if you want better performance, you're going to also have to dial that in more specifically for your riding style and for your weight class. So, uh, they said that my Heritage had a monoshock and it still wasn't great. I ended up replacing it. So yeah, a monoshock doesn't mean it's great. And that's my thing is it may be a better technology, but that doesn't necessarily mean the implementation is going to be better. And that's kind of my point. Not sure why I would spend $5,000 to $8,000 more for a Pan America CVO just to go beat it like a rental car. It makes no sense to me. I think Hoghead Bill. That's because I think a lot of these guys that buy the Pan Americas are riding down a gravel road for 5 miles to the top of a mountain after they've rode 200 miles down the blacktop. You know, I used to ride a DR 650 and I never ran across a big GS on a gravel road. I've seen plenty of them on the pavement, but I never saw them out on the Forest Service roads or anything like that. I only know one guy that would ride a big GS with panniers and everything else on it, on a forest road very much. So it's an adventure bike, but that doesn't mean it's a dirt bike. And I think people get that misinterpretation of what, how they're used the majority of the time. Um, Swiss Mountain says, I really like the Softail suspension, but I don't ride with the passenger. I'm not a really big guy. Firecracker loves her Softail with the monoshock, so she doesn't ride a passenger either. Um, I don't have all the answers. I can't tell you why Harley does what they do other than they got to make money and they got to make products that they can mass produce. And when you're talking about hidden price is a $1,350 surcharge for blacked out versus chrome. That's not hidden. It has been that way for years. It's not. It may not be in the standard MSRP price, but that's okay. A few years, was it 5 years ago, Steve? You couldn't buy a Street Glide without it being blacked out. They were blacked out was the only engine option for a while, and I wouldn't buy one because I don't want blacked out. And then they came out with a chrome versus blacked out option, and the chrome was cheaper than blacked out. It's been that way for years. It's a trim option. It's not, I wouldn't call it hidden. It's just an add-on cost if you want blacked out. And for people that don't understand why, it's because my understanding is that they have to actually like do more treatment to do the blacked out look than they do to just do a chrome deal. It costs them more. You may not, I don't know if that's true, but the research I did from multiple places indicated that was the case. Now, you know, I don't know, you know, different color pricing. Like I looked at the Street Glide. What do you think the premium blue is going to cost? What do you think, Steve? Did you look at the pricing yet?
I did not. I knew you would. $3 to $4 grand.
No, the
Oh,
blue.
no. About $300 to $400.
Yeah, no, it's $850 for like a blue or the Whiskey Fire. The Vivid
Okay.
Black I think is $600, which is I thought was a little high on the Street Glide. But if you go to the Onyx, the Whiskey Fire, the blue, those are $850. I don't think any of the premium colors, none of them are more than $850. So it's $600 for black over primer, and then it is $850 for any other color over the primer gray. I think burst blue is going to be the most popular. That's, I don't know. The Whiskey Fire, I think, looks pretty good, but again, I want to see them in person. That's going to make a difference. I have seen the burst blue in person, and the burst blue in person looks better than the website. So, as always, some of these things are things you got to see, but I do want to see the Whiskey Fire. Why is the 131 or 135 not on any bike from Harley? Because those are crate motors. They're not. They're never going to, until they go to a 131 on the CVO, you'll never see that option on any other bike because they're a aftermarket crate motor add-in, and they charge extra for them, and then you got to pay to do it, and then you got to pay the dealer to ship the installer to avoid the warranty. But that's just, they've always had these Screaming Eagle Stage 4 kits, and crate motors have been a thing for years now. The 120R, do you remember that one, Steve? Like in 2014, you could get a 103, but they made a 120R racing engine. And they made the 120 ST, which was the touring version.
I do remember that.
That was a crate motor. That's something they've been doing for 10 years.
Hey, Mike, let me leave the live just for a second. I've got kind of an emergency deal going on.
You go take care of it.
I'll be right back in a minute. It'll
All
take
right. Salty says that he's still nervous about the BVT lowering oil pressure and restricting it to the valve train. So low RPMs, it just doesn't sound good. It's hard to say. I don't know that much. I'm not a mechanic. Quad, did I miss something here? They do get the VVT on the 117? No, they don't. They don't get the VVT on the 117. Harley Davidson has confirmed that with me already. Yeah, they talked about this already. Initially, it looks like no, but not exactly the same as the Lowrider ST. So I think they're using the same cone that has the shape for VVT, just probably so that they have the same, one product to put on all these for assembly. But there is no VVT in the 117 for the Street Glide or the Road Glide standards, base models, whatever you want to call them, non-CVOs. Only the CVO Street Glide and Road Glide have the 117 or have the 121 variable valve timing. The CVO Road Glide ST does not have variable valve timing either. No more 114. There's 114s. They're just not on these bikes. They're on the limiteds. I believe the Ultra Limited is still a 114. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll go check. But last time I looked, those were all still going to be the older body style and still had the 114s on them. Has anybody gone out and looked at that for me yet? It's an M8 motor. Let's see. No more 114. I will say I'm not totally wowed. I think this year's colors and models are better than last year. Actually want to go to the dealer and see the new stuff. I'm, you know, I think they brought a lot of stuff to the touring models that people wanted. I think, all LED lighting, 117, more power, more torque, ride modes. So, yeah, the Road King Special is a 114. So the 114 is still there. They're just not on these new bikes. And only the CVOs have rear speakers on the lids, and the two in the fairing look small. Yeah, I know that for the CVOs, the fairings can take a 6.5. The grill size may look small, but that doesn't mean that there's not a larger speaker, maybe a little bit behind it. I do know from the press release that the CVO does have a 6.5 inch. The CVO ST has a 6.5 inch dash speaker. So, anybody else have any other questions that I haven't discussed that you want to know about? I'll try and get the answers. I mean, I guess, I'm not going to be able to go back and go through this live chat later, but if you have questions that you want to see answered when I go ride these bikes next week, leave them in the comment of this live stream. I will read those, and that'll be something that I can go back and review. So if you want to know this or you want to know that, let me know. Maybe I'll put a post out as well saying, hey, if you got questions, let me know what they are, and I'll try and get answers when I get to ride these bikes. I mean, obviously, there's certain product things they're not going to talk about. They're not going to tell me if a Bronx is coming. They're probably not going to tell me what happened to the Pan American 975, no matter how many times I ask. There's just certain product things that if it's potentially a product they may still release or something like that, they're not going to talk about it. Maybe someday they'll talk about what happened to the Bronx or what happened to the 975 and why they didn't release it, but that's nobody's ever come forth with that information that I know of from Harley Davidson. Do I think the Road Glide 3 will get the new fairing? Not this year. I think the bikes with the 114s, like the Road Glide Limited and the Ultra Limited and the Tri Glide and the Road Glide 3, are keeping the old fairing. I don't really know why, but maybe there was, a good justification. And one thing about the trikes that I'd have to look is, I think the trikes have a slightly different rake, which means they probably have a slightly different frame or triple tree thing. And the new CVOs and this new body style was all based around, a redesign. Now, I don't know that, the new CVOs last year dropped weight, and it had to do with triple tree and other things. I've not compared the weight on the new Street Glide versus last year's Street Glide to see how much has changed, but it's going to be not apples to apples because the motor changed and because of the new fairing and stuff. It'd be interesting to see if there was much of a difference. What's the difference between the current 114 and the new 117 on the Road Glide? Is it worth upgrading to the 117? Well, the new 117, I can tell you, is 105 horsepower and 130 foot-pounds of torque. I can tell you the 117 in the ST last year was a 102 horsepower and 125 torque. I did not compare it to the I'm having a brain fart here. I didn't compare it to the 114 from last year. If you want, I can go look that up real quick.
Those torque numbers are strong, in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems like the 117's pulling a lot better torque. I'm getting you the specs on the 114. Yeah, specials we don't really call them specials or standards anymore. I mean, we called them standards to differentiate it from the special when you were talking about it, just to make sure people knew what you were talking about. But officially, it was a Street Glide and a Road Glide and a Road Glide Special and a Street Glide Special and an ST, and now we just have Road Glides and Street Glides. So the Street Glide Special last year should have been a 114. It was, and the horsepower was 95 and torque was 122. So you go from 95 to 105 and you go from 122 to 130 with going from last year's 114 to this year's 117.
Those are good numbers.
Not bad. They're not bad. And, you know, I mean, you could probably just do a stage 1 and get close to that if you already own the bike, though. That's what you got to think about. I mean, for me, the jump from a 114 to 117 wouldn't drive me to a new bike. The new styling would, you know, the new dash,
Yeah.
you know, all LED lighting might, new seat, rider safety enhancements, the whole package might, you know, but not just the motor. Not just, especially if I was on a 114. So, guys, I have spent my lunch hour talking to you. I think we're going to call this a wrap. I want to share with you guys what I found, what I know, what I think, and that I am going to be riding these new bikes. So leave me a comment on the video, not in the live chat, and let me know if you have questions, things you want to know about them. And, of course, I'll be doing some kind of review on all these bikes after I ride them. So, y'all, thanks for coming out and joining us. You stay safe, you keep on riding, and we'll see you soon. Steve, thanks for your time today, buddy.
You betcha, brother. Peace.
All right. Bye.